Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Mandy from the Lead Line. Thank you for watching this video today. We are so excited to be sharing a broadcast here with Strider this evening. So before we get started, I would love to introduce these two lovely ladies from Strider that are here on the screen with us. We'll start off with Tara Swersey. So Tara, why don't you tell us who you are and what you do at Strider?
Hey everyone, thank you so much, Mandy, for having us here today. I'm Tara Swersey. I'm the CEO of Strider. Strider is an events bookings platform that most of you have seen in some form or another. We handle bookings for pretty much everything in the equestrian industry. We also have some other services that we've developed. So looking forward to sharing with everyone tonight some of the things we've seen around the industry to help organize and simplify.
Awesome. Thanks, Tara. Happy to have you. And then we also have Natasha. Natasha, tell us who you are and what do you do at Strider?
Hi, everyone. Mandy, thank you so much for having us again, just to reiterate that one. Very excited to be talking to everyone tonight. I am the COO of Strider, so I do a lot of the boots on the ground kind of stuff. So while Tara is super technical and great at getting the software to work properly and do all the things it needs to do, I do a lot of the translating. So I talk to facility owners and horse show organizers and figure out what functionality they need. And then Tara and I kind of work together to make it happen.
Well, what a great team you two are. You guys have both been on the Lead Line podcast in the past. We had a really good conversation on there. That was a few episodes ago. So anyone interested in listening to that episode can go back into the former episodes of the Lead Line podcast and check that out with these two awesome ladies. But I want to hear more about what we're talking about tonight because I'm not going to be doing a lot of the talking. It's actually going to be you two. So which one of you wants to share a little bit about our topic for the evening?
I could probably kick it off a little bit. So because Strider helps facilitate bookings and payment across the industry, we see everything from rehab centers to horse show venues to boarding facilities to therapeutic riding facilities to prison therapy. You name it, we've seen it, and we've hosted it on the platform for bookings for an event. We've had a lot of the pony clubs do their rallies. We've had the hunter paces. We've had polo matches. And what we've been seeing is that there's some basic elements that each one of these venues or businesses have that's a best practice that keeps them sustainable, keeps them moving forward, and frankly, kept them afloat during COVID. And so we started seeing these common elements of ways that they organize their business and the certain tools and techniques that they have in their business throughout the horse world. And it didn't matter whether they were the farrier or the vet clinic or the hunter jumper world or the dressage world, but they all have these common best practices. And so tonight we're going to talk about what those 5 practices were that we've been seeing throughout the industry that have really worked well for a lot of the businesses to propel them and help them grow.
Fantastic. Well, I'm excited to dig into this evening. And I think hearing these best practices that you've seen implemented across the board are going to be super helpful no matter what your horse business is. So, Natasha, I'm going to turn it over to you. Where would you like to kick this off this evening?
Yeah, so if you want to pull up our slides for us, and just to let everybody know, please drop some questions in the comments section and let's chat about this stuff. We are not talking to you guys from up high on a mountaintop. We really want to hear sort of issues that you're facing or problems that we can help you solve. We're yours for the next, 30, 45 minutes. So let's chat it out a little bit. And you never know, we might develop some new software based on this conversation. So yeah, Tara, do you want to kick us off for the evening?
Sure. So if you want to, obviously we're from Strider. We're big into giving solutions. So what are your pain points as a business? What are your pain points as an equestrian? And what are the solutions that are out there that work for the equestrian world? Don't necessarily work for somebody who's, in Pennsylvania in a totally different industry, but what works for you in the horse world. So we're going to be looking at the marketing solutions. We're going to be looking at the revenue solutions and some of the legal solutions. So if you want to kick it over to the next slide. I mentioned before the Strider platform. We have the capability of helping you organize and facilitate bookings and payment for any activity you want to host. So whether it's a horse show, a master class, a trade fair, pony club rally, a summer camp, dressage, fix a test, jumper show. I don't know, Natasha, what else? We've had like a gazillion different things on the platform.
Yeah, I think you hit a bunch of them. We also see a lot of like indoor arena rentals, cross-country schooling, that sort of thing. But I think one of the things that I want to point out here is that much of these best practices that we'll talk through are things that organizers started using Strider to do kind of without us realizing it. Like that wasn't necessarily the intended use of the platform. And all of our organizers figured out ways that they could make it work for them. And so that's part of why we kind of wanted to share some of the specific uses of Strider with all of you guys, because you never know, again, what ideas might light a little fire for you. A good fire, not a barn fire, obviously.
Yeah, some of our best solutions have come from the users themselves. So that's a great point. So anyway, opportunity to use Strider as much as it's useful for you. If you want to click it over to the next slide, the first best practice we've been seeing across the industry is digital payments. Before COVID, there were a lot of horse businesses that were still doing checks, and they were petrified that their clients were going to get mad at them if they said, I don't want to deal with a check anymore. And then COVID happened and they couldn't deal with checks anymore, and it was fine. And suddenly they had to accept payment digitally, and the world didn't end. And they were happier people because they got paid on time and they got digital payments. And they figured out a way to take the payments, either that they incorporated the processing fees and raised their rates a little bit, or they use something like Strider, which doesn't have a processing fee for the organizer. If you charge $100, you get $100. But they started running their businesses really as a business and saying, okay, if I'm running my boarding operation as a business, it's not an afterthought, it's not a charity, it's not somebody's hobby. I need to have certain policies and certain procedures, and I need to understand what those procedures are, and my clients need to understand them. And if there's a problem with it, there's a cost to that. So it might be a late fee if they don't pay their board on time. It might be a late fee if they don't enter the show on time. But those digital payments helped make everything a little bit more anonymous, less personable, less like you're coming after me. You're making me pay my board on time. And it made them a lot more sustainable as a business, because suddenly they could pay the hay guy, they could pay the farrier, they could pay their barn help, because they were getting money on the first of the month or by the third of the month, and they didn't have to wait for the check to clear out. They didn't have to wait until they went to the bank to deposit it. And we started seeing
wait until they got a new check after accidentally putting it through the washing machine.
We heard that a lot. We heard that a lot. The washing machine issue was a big pain for a lot of people.
That was big for people.
And that's really, that you've got to pick a payment solution that supports your sanity. We heard a lot of people saying, well, my client wants me to use this thing that was developed in like Chile and is apparently the new hot thing, but nobody knows about it. You got to pick something that works for you as the business owner. You got to pick something that the majority of your customers are going to be able to adapt without a whole heck of a lot of issues. But think about, it's your sanity that's important here. So you're not the Cheesecake Factory. You don't have to offer 15 different ways to get a board payment to you. Pick one or two, keep yourself sane. That's important, and give them a route to pay you. But that was the top thing we saw during COVID, was that the businesses that were staying afloat figured out a way to do digital payments. That was the best practice.
And Tara's going to talk through some of the different options on the next slide. But I think just to really underline that point of like, you do not need to offer 17 different ways. You need to pick one or two that will work for you and are scalable, right? That will kind of stand the test of time and the test of more money, because that's at the end of the day what you're going to need to accommodate. Yeah. So did I?
No, you were okay. This is just one of your standard sides of saying, like, listen, if you're collecting money, have a way to track it, and that's what one of the things digital payments does. Your paper checks, it's really hard to track them. And tracking was it's part of that digital payment process. That's a best practice. So this just shows you that the Strider organizer corner, if you want to track it there, you track it there. So if you've got an open house, you track it there. Yeah. We get a lot of questions about, well, what digital payment do I offer? Should I offer, Zelle? Should I offer Venmo? Should I offer Stripe? Like, well, how do I do it? What do I do? Probably 85% of the businesses we see throughout the industry have PayPal accounts. A whole bunch of them have Venmo. Venmo, you have to tread carefully because Venmo is great for one-time payments for margaritas, for Uber rides, for things like that. Most of your accounts are going to be personal accounts. They're not designed for business operations, which means suddenly you are the most successful horse trainer in North America. You're getting 10 times the amount of clients and you're getting paid all the time through Venmo. And oh my God, all this money's coming in, it's coming in, it's coming in, it's coming in. And you can't pay your hey guy because it never transferred to your bank account because you never took the time to transfer it. It doesn't transfer automatically in Venmo. You've got to manually move it. PayPal and Stripe, it moves over automatically. So think about what you're trying to accomplish, and then think about the amount of drama that trying to skirt those little pesky fees is going to get you when PayPal, reports, or whomever reports to the IRS that you got a lot of money and you didn't pay taxes on it. One phone call with a lawyer is going to completely annihilate your wish to have no processing fees on any digital payment platform. So compare your different solutions that you're looking at with how much drama, if something goes wrong, how much drama is there? And again, keep things sane. Best practice is not to make yourself crazy. So use something that keeps yourself sane. The StriderPay is what we offer on our platform. We developed it for the horse world. Basically, if you have a PayPal account, we facilitate the credit card payments for you, and we drop it into your PayPal account. And then every night, PayPal drops it into your bank account. No fees, no deductions. It's all straight revenue, straight for you. That's our StriderPay. So we're pretty proud of StriderPay, partnership with PayPal. We're happy about the fact nobody has to pay fees on it. Life is good. If you have PayPal on your website, you've got people paying you, you're going to be charged the fees. But again, you control it. It's on your website. If you got Venmo is really easy. Everybody loves Venmo because we all go out for our beers and our margaritas and life is good. It is not scalable. You can't pull more than a couple months of history from Venmo, which means when you need to figure out whether or not they paid you for that horse show what you coached at 4 months ago, you have no idea if they paid you for it. When Venmo figures out that you're a business, they're going to start charging you fees. That's a problem. And the biggest issue we see as far as a best practice is when somebody pays you in Venmo, you don't control the privacy. They do, which means if I want to pay Mandy $517 for board and I'm supposed to pay her $730, everybody around us knows that I only paid her $517. And so now she's going to get 2 or 3 more clients saying, hey, Mandy, how come Tara only paid you $517? Because Mandy doesn't control it.
That's really interesting, Tara. I'm literally sitting here thinking about my Venmo account and how I always turn my transactions to private when I pay someone, just as a standard. And I totally didn't think of the fact that people that are paying me could be putting something embarrassing in the memo and it shows up, or I don't know whether it's their memo notes or the amount they're paying me that I may not want broadcasted publicly. And I totally didn't even think about that. You can still see it the other way.
Right.
Yeah, I think Venmo is so social that it is sort of a detriment to business activity in a way.
Yeah. It definitely, depending on your clientele and depending on what you're trying to accomplish, it can definitely advertise certain things you don't want to advertise. And sometimes it's just that someone's taking lessons with you and it might cause friction with the trainer down the street. And maybe you just wanted those lessons to be private. It could be as simple as that, but be cautious of the Venmo stuff. From a best practice, there's a lot of minefields when you're using that particular tool as a digital payment option. We don't tend to see Stripe as much in the horse world, but Stripe is a great best practice. They have a fantastic platform. It's a little bit tougher than PayPal to use to get started on, but it's got some fantastic tools in it, especially for like board collection and subscriptions and things like that. So don't rule that one out. Natasha's going to talk huge about checks. We've already told you how many people came to us and said, I lost my check. I lost my check. How can I get the payment through StriderPay because I lost the check, or my boarder didn't pay me because I can't take a check? You're spending a lot of time on checks, guys. Don't. Just stop. Stop taking checks. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of their time. I'm willing to bet your boarders are only writing you a check. It's like 1 check a month that's coming out of their checkbook, and it's to you. So you're spending time every time you take a check that you could be spending doing anything else that you want to do with your life and humanity. So
you could bake cupcakes, you could clean the thing that you didn't get to clean. There's just
ride your horse.
You can ride your horse. You can be like, have a nice time riding your horse. Yeah, I'm pretty anti-check on a personal level, and also through all of this work that we've seen. But yeah, I mean, I just got to the end of my checkbook that I've used, I don't know, twice in the past year, and it's pretty stressful. I got to order new ones.
You know, I'm still using the same batch of checkbooks that my husband and I bought in 2013. And it's like 3 addresses ago that's on these personal checks. And I do still write checks for the board, my horse board, and I write checks for my farrier.
Yep.
So those are the only 2 that I really write checks for. And there's a couple random services in this very little town that I live in that take checks. But for the most part, my horse services are the only ones I'm really writing checks for. So every time I'm like crossing out, I don't live in Massachusetts anymore. I'm in New York.
Those providers that you're writing the checks to, they've got horror stories of a client writing them a check and the check bouncing and them not being able to get back to their client and the client not paying them. The number of venues we've talked to that were taking checks for people to trailer in for schooling, either arena rentals or cross country or, rent this or whatever. And then the checks would bounce, so they wouldn't leave the checks. And the number of signs we've seen at the various venues and our clients' venues that say, no checks, we're done. We're done chasing you down. If you bounce a check to us, we will never allow you at the facility again, because it was just happening too often.
Yep. I don't take, in my business, I don't accept checks. I actually had someone just try to write me a check for a PayPal invoice that I sent. And I was like, I can't take a paper check. Mm-hmm. Not to mention I have to drive 30 minutes to the post office to go pick it up from my business post office. So I'm not going to drive 30 minutes to check my post office several times a week just for my money.
Yeah. Your 15 minutes per check becomes an hour and 20 per check.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So to shift gears a little bit, to end our check diatribe, really, so we'll talk a little bit about sort of marketing and how to get the word out about your business. Obviously, one of the best practices that we've seen throughout the pandemic is that it has become easier for people to find businesses and find the services that they're looking for. So there's this lovely quote from Forbes that I just want to get tattooed on my forehead or something, but 93% of all online experiences begin with a search engine. So basically, if somebody can't find your business, they are never going to be your customer, right? It's impossible. And so one of the things that we tell a lot of our clients and consult a lot about is basically how easy is it for people to find you? If the only way that they can find out about your horse show or clinic is word of mouth by knowing the right 7 people who were invited personally by you, it's probably not going to be a successful horse show or clinic, right? Your lesson program is probably not going to grow from that. Your sales horse program is probably not going to grow from that. So one of the things that we did as we built the Strider platform was make it search engine optimized. And hats off to Tara for that one, because everybody who posts on Strider gets automatic nationwide marketing. Of course, there are some ways to beef up your marketing. So we're not saying Strider's the only way to do things, but you can have a business Facebook page. You can have a business Instagram. You can make sure that your website answers people's questions. Right? So if someone's going to search for your business, what are the words that you would want them to search to find you? Make sure that those words are included in the content of your website. Basically answer people's questions before they know they have them. Right? And that's just a really, really good best practice. Again, people were stuck at home during COVID, so they weren't having those coffee conversations and saying, oh, that barn down the road, they have an amazing lesson program. Everything was happening from within a set of walls. And so that's part of the reason that basic SEO got so important for horse businesses everywhere and any type of horse business. So with that, and again, I mentioned a little bit about business Facebook and business Instagram, they will help to get you noticed. They will help to remind people that you exist. and they'll help you to communicate with your whole community and expand your community, right? Like we're all here talking in a Facebook Live, which is pretty amazing. But it's really, really important to separate your business account from your personal account. And that has a variety of benefits. One of them being that you can like go home at the end of the day, right? So you don't have to post everything to your business account and worry about losing some customers or whatever. Keep that stuff personal. Separating and creating those boundaries is really, really important for your sanity. Tara talked a little bit about, digital payment tools to keep your sanity. Well, I think social media can do that as well. You can set those boundaries and keep them up. So another best practice that really works is to post some headshots with good eye contact. Make sure that there are no sunglasses and, low brim hats or anything in every single picture of you. People will buy from or pay that people that they trust for services. And so that eye contact helps to build trust. So you want to make sure that those photos are on your website as well. Some ways to preserve your sanity.
Chime in before that real quick, just so everyone's aware. So we saw a lot of pictures of really impressive riders happen during COVID and just generally on the platform. Everyone's like, this rider can ride. We saw the hits to the post that showed somebody's face go up about 45%. So if you had an activity and you showed somebody's face and you showed their eyes, people wanted to connect. They wanted to see the eyes. They wanted to connect with that person. And those activities were the ones that were getting clicks. So we put these pictures up because it really demonstrates like, yeah, Doug Payne's an amazing rider. He went to the Olympics. Look at this massive jump. Now look at his eyes. There's a lot more connection when you get to see him smiling and you're looking him in the eyes. So from a best practice, what Natasha's talking about with those eye contact, don't take it lightly because it's the reason we're here now on Facebook Live looking at you all.
Yeah, exactly. So the other way to preserve your sanity as you're sort of juggling, posting pictures of yourself with the smile plastered on your face and all that jazz is to schedule those posts in advance. That also helps it feel less like you're doing shameless self-promotion, which I think a lot of horse people are very opposed to. So you can use things like Facebook Business Suite. And I'm sure, I actually know for a fact, Mandy has had some very qualified social media experts come on and talk to everybody about, those sorts of best practices. So we won't go too in depth on that, but I think scheduling posts in advance is a great way to save time and knock it off your list, right? It's done, it happened, and we're set for the next, few weeks. So I can go worry about the horse show or the lessons or whatever. So another really, really important thing that we have seen work really well throughout the pandemic and sort of beyond is that your captions should be really, really clear with calls to action. So what I mean by that is if you are posting something that says, hey, come to our horse show, period, with a picture of a ribbon, that doesn't tell people any information, right? They don't know where to go. They don't know when it's happening. They don't know how to sign up for it. So really, you've just wasted your own time and quite frankly, theirs by the time that they've read the post, right? So you want to make sure that if you're saying, hey, come to our horse show, you're saying, hey, we're having a horse show on May 5th. You are cordially invited to our Cinco de Mayo horse show. Here is where you go to enter. We are accepting digital entries. Obviously, everybody's going to accept digital entries now and digital payments. But tell people exactly where to go and tell them the action steps that you want them to take. And you can do that in a way that's not overwhelming. It doesn't have to be 7 paragraphs long, but just make sure that they can act on what they are reading if you want them to, right? Unless it's a feel good, hey, here's a picture of these horses hanging out in the paddock kind of post. And then the other thing is to make sure that you have a little bit of community engagement, give your favorite 7 students one day of the week each and, give them a little shout out or something. Make everybody in your barn, in your community feel good and feel involved. And then also make sure that you're using social media to like tag your sponsors and partners. That cross promotion is really great for, again, getting the word out and growing your business just beyond whatever you're specifically trying to promote. With that, we also talk a lot about high quality visuals. So no blurry photos. Don't screenshot the video and then post it. You don't have to do that. There are easier ways. iPhones are great. Any smartphone really today. I feel like there are better cameras than iPhones even on the other smartphones, but personally I have an iPhone, so it wins. And then there's a tool called Canva that I'm sure most of you are familiar with. It's free and great. There are so many things that you can do with Canva. And the most important thing is that if you are sharing photos from a professional photographer, make sure that you get their permission to use. Make sure you add the photo source. All of that stuff is so important, right? We need to support the photographers who show up at the horse show. We can't steal their photos. It's not okay. And it's also, Tara will get a little more into this, I'm sure. It's a big lawsuit if you do it wrong a few times. Yeah.
I have a couple of things I wanted to pipe in on that those last couple of ones too, Natasha. So talking about like the strong captions that you mentioned, that's really important. But I also see a lot of times where it doesn't matter if it's the horse industry or another industry, but people will post images that are super overloaded with text, thinking that they will read all of those details that are in that graphic. You are better off posting a regular image of a horse and then doing a good, strong caption than you are slapping all of that text on a photo, because I promise you, people don't read the text in the photo. They won't. And I also think that those kinds of posts don't seem to get the engagement. The algorithms don't like text-heavy content, text-heavy graphics for whatever reason. And I find the engagement is a lot lower on those.
Absolutely. The number is what, 20%, I think? If it's more than 20% text, the algorithms are like, nope, we're not showing that.
Exactly. So if anything, go for the strong caption. Don't slap it on your graphic.
Yep. And captions are clickable, right? Not on Instagram, but on Facebook, captions are clickable.
Absolutely.
So obviously that makes it more of a jump shoot. And that's something I should have mentioned before, but really like think about your customers like a horse going through a jump shoot, right? Funnel them in the direction you want them to go in. So again, those clear calls to action are really important.
Yeah, if you go back that one slide, what we saw over the last couple of years, what we've seen is that if you are a business that is making revenue, you're a business that's staying afloat, you're a business that's growing, you've got a Facebook page at a minimum. You probably have an Instagram page, but sometimes maybe you didn't have an Instagram page unless you had somebody to manage your Instagram, because it's a different set of skills. Not everybody had it. But all of these successful businesses had a Facebook business page, not a personal page, but a business page. They gradually and more increasingly were scheduling their posts and figuring out how to value their time. We'll talk about that in a moment. And they were figuring out that visuals mattered. So again, those elements of what makes you successful, what makes you organized, they started to task out, hey, working student, go take me 15 pictures of the sale horse, or, go take me 17 pictures of Mandy as she's trotting around the dressage ring, and I can use them once a week for the next 17 weeks, whatever it is. I want to see that smile from Natasha. Give me that picture of her and her horse. They started incorporating this stuff. So not everybody hits every single element out of the park, but we started seeing that, hey, you've got 20 points for digital payments. You get 20 points if you figured out how, when you Google your business name, it shows up on Google. And then all of a sudden you've got social media. Are you on social media? Do you post more than like once every 7 weeks? And we started seeing these elements just showing up again and again and again in those businesses, regardless of where they were. So I just wanted to foot stomp on that because I really think it's important.
Absolutely.
Natasha and I had a lot of discussions on whether this would be the first slide or this slide, because we couldn't decide whether or not digital payments or valuing your time was really what we needed to kick off with. And I think you're all going to agree that it's a chicken and the egg. In the horse world, we all work for 17 cents an hour. Like, I don't care who you are, you're working for 17 cents an hour until you figure out how to value your time. And then all of a sudden you realize your time matters. And we saw huge number of people figure that out during COVID. And they started saying, I'm not going to let this person waste my time. I'm not going to spend all my free time working on this stupid thing over here with a piece of paper when I could be spending it with my family or sanity or enjoying something. And so valuing your time, figuring out what the value is for an hour of your life, and respecting your own schedule and your own time, and not giving it up cavalierly to watch 17 sale horse videos and not get paid for that professional consultation. That's really important. So best practice we saw throughout the last couple of years, post a rate chart. The businesses that are figuring out how to run it as a business have a published rate chart. They might have it on their website. They might have it in their board agreement. They might have it on the wall of their facility. They might send it out by email, but it's posted. And everybody knows what the rate is for a shoeing. Everybody knows what the rate is for studs. Everybody knows what the rate is if you're going to get an ultrasound or a month of board or a month of training board. It's not mental telepathy. And so when you go to your client and you say, listen, I'm happy to coach you at that horse show. My coaching fee is $115. They expect it because they've seen it published. You've managed their expectations. They expect it. They're not going to fight you for it. They're not going to be resentful that you charge them for your professional time. You've already told them, this is what my time is worth. If you'd like it, you can pay for it. But I'm a professional and I value my time. So as they started doing all this, we've seen a lot of movement in the industry to what's the tech that's going to help me save time? Can I do online entries? A lot of people moved to Strider. We saw Practical Horseman Dressage today come on to Strider. A lot of the pony clubs came on to Strider because they're like, we can't do this via paper. We can't do it via email. We need digital online entries. Gmail schedule send. Who knew that Gmail had a schedule send? Like, I didn't know this. I had to have the interns over at Georgetown University told me about it. And I was like, you can schedule your email. This is amazing.
I love that feature.
Oh my God. This is a game changer.
For the days that you're at an away horse show and you're not going to get to your email at the end of the day. I mean, who knew?
Right. And I like it because you can schedule it to send during business hours. And sometimes I'm getting home late from an event. I know I need to reply to an email, but I don't want to send it late at night, or I don't want to send it on a weekend when it's going to get buried in their Monday emails. Yep. And so I'll schedule it to be like, all right, 9 a.m. Monday, I want this person to get this email because I know I'm more likely to get a response if I send it at a good time for them versus letting it get buried all weekend.
Right. And plus you're valuing your time. You're saying, hey, listen, I'm not reachable at 11:15 at night. That's my time. So don't expect me to respond back to emails at 11:15 unless your horse is colicking. I'm going to send it at 9 a.m., which is a reasonable business time to schedule it. That's okay. I'm not checking my email at 11 o'clock. Even if we all are checking our email at 11 o'clock, we don't have to publish that to the world. So things like the schedule send, things like using MailChimp to send out a newsletter, Calendly. Some of you have been starting to use Calendly. That's another great tool if you haven't checked it out. Strider Plus is the tool that we offer on the platform. If you want to do time-based bookings like for arena rentals or for polo matches, cross-country schooling, that's all through Strider Plus. You can offer a lot of services through Strider Plus and get the payment that way. Natasha has a great deal about the consultation, the paperwork fees. I think she can speak to this. She, as a professional dressage trainer, I mean, just 5 minutes. How many times have you been asked that? Just 5 minutes.
Just think of all the hours that you've spent cleaning other people's stalls, doing other people's grunt work to get to the point where somebody just takes advantage of your 5 minutes over and over again. Like, you have worked really hard to build your own business. And so you've got to charge for that time. And I think a lot of horse trainers that I know maybe feel that they can't charge a consultation fee. And so, the question I pose is, what do you charge for a lesson? And that's your rate. That's at least a starting point. Maybe your lessons aren't an hour and maybe you want to set an hourly rate. So figure that out. But that's a really, really good starting point because that's your time and it definitely has value.
And that's what lawyers are charging. You don't see a lawyer and get half an hour of their brilliance for free. You have to pay a consultation fee. So if you're a professional and one of the services you offer is professional consultation on horses or anything else, perfectly reasonable to say, this is my consultation fee, and you can book my time through Calendly. You can book My Time through Strider Plus. This is how you book it. But you're sending the message that you value your time. And that was something, as a best practice to get organized and to simplify things in the horse world. We saw that come up to the forefront again and again and again, that people were feeling finally that they could value their time and they could put these tools in place to communicate to everybody else that they expected their time to be respected.
Yep, absolutely.
The last practice we saw pop up, digital written agreements. The number of people who have board agreements that are clip art, or sale horse agreements that are clip art, or waivers and liability releases that are never actually signed by anybody who shows up to their barn because, oh my God, where is the clipboard? And why am I running over here to get the clipboard when I'm on this horse? And dear God, this is a pain in the butt. And they gave me the piece of paper. The piece of paper went with the check that went in the wash that went with the breeches that never came home. And it's in the back of my truck somewhere. And I've seen them, but I don't really know where they are. And, I think my dog was running on top of them. I'm not sure. A lot of this stuff is about, like, how do you grow your business? How do you simplify things, relax your stress, and grow your business? So Natasha talked a lot about, like, you're getting free visibility from Google. You're figuring out how to do your digital payments. You're figuring out how to communicate with people and do it automatically, so you're not worried about it. You've got Mandy setting up these networking opportunities where you can go and you can meet other people, and you're making all this more money. And then you get sued because you didn't think that they needed to sign the liability release, or because you sold a horse and you didn't have a venue for the argument that happened after you sold the horse in your sale horse agreement. Digital written agreements, hands down, one of the best practices you can have to simplify your life. The amount of money you're going to spend just getting 3 template agreements, your waiver, your sale horse agreement, and your boarding agreement, written tight and properly, not copied from your friend down the street who got it from somebody who got it from somebody who pulled it off the internet, and maybe, there's a problem. Get them tight, because you are going to save so much money when you set those expectations and say, hey, listen, I'm sorry that the sale horse I sold you isn't working out for you. I'm sorry you got bucked off 6 times because you bought a horse that maybe was a little bit too high profile and too high caliber for your skills right now, and you refused to take lessons. Sorry that happened. But these are the terms of my sales contract. It said that you had the opportunity to have a professional evaluate the horse and the suitability for you. It said that you had the opportunity for a vetting. It said the opportunity for your friend to ride the horse. It passed all these various tests. And, we didn't warranty that it was the right horse for you, but you bought the horse. So you don't get to sue me because you're having emotional duress. And Mandy's got stories, I'm sure, of those sort of things, because I see her nodding her head. So I know she's heard some in the industry, probably in the networking events.
There's definitely a lot of stories out there where people don't have their agreements done right, or done at all for that matter. And they come into these Facebook groups, whether it's mine or the other groups, and they ask, what do I do? This happened and I don't know how to handle it. Well, it's because there was never any clear verbiage really set out from the beginning. Yep. Or they just don't have a copy of it anymore. No one has a copy because no one knows where it is. And what I love about digital contracts or any kind of digital document is that it's searchable. If you put it in the right place, you just search for the name of your document if you're labeling your documents correctly, and you can find it in a hurry. I love, like, Google Drive for that, storing my documents, and I make sure my folders on my computer are organized. And worst case scenario, send yourself an email with the document and put it in the subject line of the email, then save the email if you don't have online storage.
Yeah, exactly. Because your email provider is going to give you more storage than you ever wanted in your life, because they want it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we've got Strider Plus is one of our solutions that we offer that allows you to digitize your waivers. Basically, you give us your waiver language, we digitize it for you, we host it on a secure web server, and then people can sign it from their cell phone. And then you get a signed PDF copy, they get a signed PDF copy. Everybody's on the same page. You're searching for it by the name of your document and their last name, because that's how the document comes across to you. You have it forever and ever and ever. There's never a question they signed it. They got the QR code, whatever. So whether you've got a sales contract or a boarding agreement, like, it's very straightforward for them to fill it out, sign it on their phone, and you get that digital copy. So there's a whole bunch of different services out there. Different ones have different prices. Some of them are more expensive than others. We think Strider Plus works really well for the horse world because we priced it for the horse world. But DocuSign, ApproveMe, there's a whole bunch of other ones out there as well. But definitely consider how many clients you're looking to have. And a 1 or 2 time investment in a lawyer makes a difference. So those digital written agreements were the last thing we saw across the industry start to percolate up, because people had to get electronic signatures over the last 2 years and they didn't know how to do it. And they didn't know how it was legally enforceable. And I can come to your barn right now and I can say, hi, I'm Kate Middleton. And I just said that this pony is great. And I signed your waiver. You have nothing that proves Kate Middleton actually showed up and signed the waiver. You've got no proof of identity. It's not legally enforceable. Just because I said I was Kate Middleton and typed it on the form doesn't mean you can do anything with it. So what we saw, again, all of these businesses, the vets, the horse shows, the camps, the pony clubs, they all started to say, we need a solution where we can have a digital agreement that we can save forever, that we can use, and it's enforceable. And that was the last sort of like simplification and organization practice we saw, that's really worked amazing for the entities that have been implementing it. This is just a quick screenshot of what Mandy was talking about. Like, if you get the docs, save the docs. Okay, figure out a system that lets you save the docs. Don't get a piece of paper and then you can't find it 3 weeks later. You know, the number of places I've been to where I see those wrinkled liability releases covered in horse manure and hoof oil
and coffee.
Yeah, at the bottom of somebody's like grain bucket, you know, or whatever. Like, that's not going to do you any good, guys. Like, your insurance company hates you right now. Like, you gotta store them somewhere.
That's me with paper receipts that I need to keep for business. I got to get better about scanning those in.
You know,
So hard. It's so hard.
I get those Home Depot receipts and they're all crinkled and horrible.
Yeah.
And then when you spill coffee on them, the ink goes away.
The ink just goes away anyways as they age.
Yeah.
Like, if you leave them, don't wait till sack season next year. There's no ink left.
It's true.
Well, these are just some resources, and you know, we can obviously make these available and clickable. There will be a replay of this, but you know, we kind of touched on a lot of these throughout the presentation, and obviously most of these actually have free versions that you guys can take advantage of. So
yeah, the point of this is, like, when you're looking at the best practices, there's always options, and every option, some work for some people and some work for other people. So look through your options. These are some of the more favorable options that tend to be out there. Think about what works for you, but start thinking about where your pain points are. You know, if you're coming home and you're complaining to your significant other about the same thing every single night of like, my boarders aren't paying me, my lesson students aren't respecting my time, whatever. Figure out which one of these best practices you need to implement, because sanity is important for everyone. You know, quality of life is a big thing.
And you don't need to do all of them at once.
Right.
Start small and then go from there. Like, figure out, again, like Tara said, what's your main pain point, and start there with finding a solution, and then see what else gets a little easier as you have more time.
And we are always available. You know, reach out to our support team to set up a call with either myself or Natasha. We do quick calls. We won't talk to you for 2.5 hours, but we will do complimentary calls to help you figure out what solutions might work for you, whether it's a Strider solution or another solution that we mentioned. We're always happy to help get feedback and talk to the community. It's really helpful to us to understand, you know, where people are at and where their pain points are. So don't hesitate to reach out to us if you can.
Great. Well, Tara and Natasha, I'm going to bring you guys full screen here, so we're back in together. Thank you so much for that great presentation. I just want to close things out by saying that I have personally used Strider for my live in-person networking events, and I've used them for ticket sales, and it was fantastic. One of the things that I kind of missed was a feature of Strider when I first signed up and started using the platform, was that you build the fees on top of what I want to make, and you charge that to the end user. So in terms of me as the organizer setting up a new event in Strider, I don't get dinged with fees, whether it's Strider fees or PayPal fees. If I say I want to make X amount of money. I make X amount of money. And I know, Tara, that you mentioned that briefly earlier, that like, if that's what you want to make, that's what you make. But I really want to drive that home because it was a surprise to me, even though I'm sure you probably told me this before. And it was even the second time I was using Strider and I still missed it, I guess, the first time around.
There's so much that comes at you, especially when you're like setting something up for the first time, right? It's like a fire hose of information. And so you probably missed it because you were just, I don't know, maybe thinking that there was just going to be a fee and you had sort of swallowed that pill already.
I was just used to it. And, you know, I was actually building out a budget and my expense sheet for the live networking event. And I was like, all right, I need to go look at PayPal and see how much they're taking per ticket that I sell so that I can build that into my sheet here and see where my money's coming out at the end of this. Yeah. And I went in and I was like, oh, it's the whole amount that I was charging. What did I miss? Like, is it broken? So I went and looked because I wasn't sure if it just wasn't working the way it was supposed to. And I was like, am I supposed to be paying them something and I'm not getting charged? Like, what's up here? And then Natasha, I remember I asked you and you're like, no, that's how it's supposed to be. Like, that's how it's set up.
You're actually supposed to make money. It's a whole thing. Yeah.
And I love that.
I want people to make money.
Yeah,
and
we
I
were
know
able to negotiate with PayPal for that, but it's not normal. And it's not how PayPal normally works, and it won't work that way on your website. So everyone's like, no, you're going to charge me fees, or PayPal will charge me fees, because there's a lack of belief in PayPal. PayPal always charges you fees.
Yeah, always.
You know?
Yeah. But I thought that was a great feature and a great benefit. And I know it can be scary sometimes, like, will people pay that extra fee, the online processing fee, to come to my event? But in the big picture, think about it. When you buy like a concert ticket, there's always an online processing fee and you don't think anything of it. You buy your concert ticket and you're like, oh, okay, it's $3 to do this.
And you know what else? You
buy the ticket.
Concert ticket is cancel at the last minute, like a lot of people do with horse events. So maybe we really should be a little bit more like concert tickets.
Well, that's why you put that in your policy, your refund policy on Strider. Exactly. And you let people know whether or not they get refunds for canceling. So you can definitely build that out. But I think that a lot of the things you talked about today, ladies, were definitely beneficial. Whether someone can use Strider in their business or not, it really depends on what their business model is as to, you know, whether Strider makes sense for them. But a lot of the stuff you talked about, like going digital, taking digital payments, making sure you're on social media, making sure your group graphics are clear, your SEO, like all of those things are definitely things to consider. So I'm really glad you brought them up today.
Well, thank you so much for having us. We've had a great time. Hopefully I don't know if there's any questions that have come in. We're happy to answer any if folks have them, but really appreciate the opportunity.
We definitely went over time talking. Yeah. So sorry, everybody.
We're a fun group. What can we say?
We're pretty into these topics, as you can tell. So we're happy.
Absolutely. Well, why don't you close us out by telling people where they can go find Strider online? What's your website?
Yeah, so the website is StriderPro.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram at Strider World. And like Tara said, you can reach out to our support team at any time via support@StriderPro.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, ladies. The replay will be available online. So anyone that missed this, if you have questions afterwards, just reach out directly to Tara or Natasha, and I'm sure they will answer your questions. So thanks for being here, and we'll check in again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.